The anxious, ambivalent, insecure attachment style. That's a lot of words, so I'll break it down a little bit. When Bowlby first formulated attachment theory, he identified 3 kinds of attachment. Firstly, secure, and then 2 insecure ones. Both insecure ones are referred to as an anxious attachment. And the one we're talking about today, which is one of those, is the ambivalent anxious attachment. Now, it's an organised attachment style, by which I mean the baby and then the child has figured out a way of emotionally connecting to their parent or carer based on the kind of care that they've received, and particularly the kind of care they've received when they're distressed. Just so that you're aware, later in attachment theory, a 4th style was added called disorganised, and that's for those children for which there is just no organising system. As I'm talking today about an ambivalent attachment, I'm going to give an example of a mother. It could equally be a father, whoever is the main attachment figure for the child.
In a securely attached baby, when the baby's distressed, the mother tunes in, comforts her and makes everything better. But in an ambivalent attachment, this is inconsistent. This means that sometimes the mother does just this. When the baby's distressed, the mother responds with love and care and makes everything better. Sometimes. Sometimes when she's hungry, she's fed. Sometimes when she's tired, she's got off to sleep. Sometimes when she's wet, she's changed. But at other times, the mum doesn't do this and the baby's distressed isn't attuned to. So there are times when the baby is hungry, wet, cold, tired, in pain, and there's nobody to soothe and understand her. When this kind of on-off attunement happens, the baby figures out that sometimes this crying thing works. She doesn't understand why it's on and off. She doesn't understand that it's about the mother and it's not about her. She just knows that sometimes my mummy can do what I need and make me feel better. So she thinks, I'm going to let her know what I need, and I'm going to keep right on doing that in the hope that she'll come. Now, when she does come, because the little baby can't be sure that her ongoing attuned attention is going to last, she keeps the distress going. Ambivalently attached babies are not as quick to settle as securely attached babies for this reason, so the crying, the distress, the upset will last much longer. And there may be many reasons why a mother is inconsistent like this. Maybe the mother has her own mental health needs, and there are times when she can only focus on herself and not on her baby. Perhaps she has substance misuse problems and isn't responsive when she's using, but is very responsive when she's not. Perhaps the mother is distracted by the pressing needs of other children or of work. Or she might be suffering in a difficult relationship with her partner, and the rows leave her unable to attend to the baby in those times. So what happens to these ambivalently attached babies when they grow up to be children? Well, they're the kind of children who get described as clingy. They're anxious about whether or not their attachment figure is going to be available. Their minds and hearts are preoccupied by the question, will she be there when I need her, or won't she? And it means that they're not as free to just explore the world, enjoy themselves and engage in play in the same way that a securely attached child can. They're more easily distracted from those kinds of things by relationships and feelings. What their experiences to date have taught them is that relationships aren't dependable. You can't rely on them to be there at times of distress. So you've got to focus on and prioritise relationships. It's the only way to get emotional connection, even if that's at the expense of playing and exploring the world. These are children who tend to become more easily emotional, and so they're often seen as more immature than their peers. All children have to balance the needs of having a safe base, an attachment figure to help them manage their tricky feelings, and the need to learn, play and explore their world. A securely attached child is able to balance both. So they're free to play, safe in the knowledge that mummy or daddy will be there if needed. However, an ambivalently attached child doesn't know this. She knows she needs emotional connection, so she focuses on this, on the attachment figure, and also then on other relationships as she grows up, at the expense of playing and exploring her world. The balance is off. That's not to say these children don't play at all, but they're much more distracted and preoccupied by relationships. The emphasis is firmly on the safe base, the attachment figure, even though that means compromising their play and exploration. When attachment theory was originally formulated, the mother was seen as wholly responsible for the attachment style of the baby. But more recently, it's been recognised that the temperament of the baby does have an impact. A baby that's hard to settle, easily overwhelmed and distressed, is much harder to consistently attune to, and therefore more at risk at developing an insecure or anxious attachment style. It's how the mother responds to the baby's distress, whether that distress is typical or extreme, which determines the attachment style. If she sometimes attunes well, but at other times fails to attune, then it will produce an anxious ambivalent attachment style.